Emigrating to America was, in a sense, emigrating to freedom.
Ellis Island was the channel you had to go through, and it was a scary one.
And that was the hardest part about Ellis Island, is that we were separated.
The whole story was so dramatic that it didn't seem like it could be real.
Chances are really good that I would not be alive today.
And there was quite a lot of hollering and screaming and gladness.
I wish I could have been there. I really do.
And the one that chokes me up every time is the one that, when they start talking about the Statue of Liberty.
It was like coming to paradise.
I'm no longer Italian. I'm no longer Irish. I'm American.
ABC Notebook, The Children of Ellis Island.
America is a community of pioneers. Throughout our history, immigrants came here to escape persecution and oppression in search of religious freedom, economic opportunity, and political asylum. They came for a better life for themselves and their families. Hello, I'm Lynn Sherr for ABC Notebook. All four of my grandparents and both my husband's parents came to America from Eastern Europe at the turn of the century. Today we're going to meet three families who came here through Ellis Island, point of entry for an estimated 12 million European immigrants between 1892 and 1954. In fact, about 40% of us here in the United States have family members who passed through this New York landmark. There were some 70 other receiving stations, but Ellis Island was special because it was so big and because it was so close to the Statue of Liberty. Our ancestors could see that statue off in the distance as a symbol of hope and freedom. The immigration procedures were bewildering to many of the new arrivals. Some spoke no English. They had to undergo a series of legal tests and medical examinations. Most passed. Some were detained, and sadly, 2% were turned away. But those who came ashore in New York were now free people. They brought a very special legacy to our country, and it lives on in their families. Who are the children of Ellis Island?
My name is Cosmo Mary Angela Domenica Tangora, Tangorra. I came through Ellis Island in 1905.
The Tangora family from Washington, D.C. left the Italian province of Puglia in 2 shifts. Father, Michael, in 1901, followed 4 years later by his wife and 4 young children. They embarked after 4 unsuccessful attempts to pass the physical exam in Naples. Like many other immigrant children, Cosma had but one wish.
I was happy because we were going to meet my dad. It's all I looked for. And it's all my dreams that I want to see my dad. When we left Italy, some Italian people got very jealous that we were coming to America because they said, you find gold in the streets, but you're not supposed to pick it up. The American people look down on you. And of course, I didn't find anything like that. It was nothing like I had pictured that we were to find.
She's an incredibly strong-willed woman. Maybe coming over from Italy in the early 1900s without an education, having to learn a language, having to work at an early age providing money for her family because her father was very ill. She was the leader of their family.
At the early in the turn of the century, there was discrimination in this country against the new immigrant wave. So she felt that, living in the city especially, where people were jockeying for positions. So that was hard. She lost a lot of money in the stock market in '29. She lost children. She lost her husband recently. Life's been very, very, very hard for her, and yet, damn it, you know, she comes through, and it's kind of interesting to see. She's a survivor.
She knew what she had to do, and to protect herself, she put up this barrier around her, but underneath it, she is a very sensitive, a neat lady. I mean, she's loving. She did everything for her family that she could. She had 2 jobs at times to make ends meet for her family and for her husband's family. She had what it took.
I had 2 government jobs under 2 different names, believe it or not. And if they ever found out, I could have been in jail at the time. But I had to lie to live.
The situation my mother lived through is so foreign to not only our children, but any child today. My mother, without a lot of education, was extremely talented as a painter of china. So the artistic talent that I have and some of our children have directly comes through my mother's side of the family. Beyond that, my mother's influence would be felt because her father was a stonemason. And all of his relations in southern Italy were builders, et cetera, et cetera.
The whole family's been one of artistic vein, and at the same time building with your hands, carpentry, stone.
I'm a weaver. I have a loom, and I make rugs. I sew. I do calligraphy. I love to make bread. I mean, I like to think that I'm wholesome because of that direct lineage backwards to a woman who used to step on the grapes with her feet in Italy and just do things by hand without relying on fancy technology.
The children, I think, have been happy here. They've had quite a lot of opportunities to be happy and to learn. That was the whole theme of providing them with a dwelling in which they could benefit, they could learn, they could have a good chance at life.
I think there's nothing like a big family, but of course that's gone today. I was always in a big family. We were always communicating with each other. We knew what each other was doing, whether it was wrong or not. We always knew what the other was doing. That was our motto.
Here's this woman who's had a very, very tough life, a very hard life. And you'd say, God, where's this optimism coming from?
Keep your chin up. And even when the, going gets tough, so to speak, just keep on plowing through. Don't give up. Be a fighter and be persistent. And a lot had to do with, our background and also the family. You've got your family. That's something that a lot of people don't have, the tightness, the closeness.
And I feel really strongly about, this is my home. And these are my roots, and I'm real proud to have these traditions.
We've come in a straight line from Italy and Ireland to the nation's capital, and we've gone through now 3 or 4 generations sort of mixing and working here, and now it was inevitable that people disperse.
The traditions have evolved and they've changed. They're no longer, I'm no longer Italian, I'm no longer Irish, I'm American.
I'd fight to hell for America. America has given me an opportunity to live, to understand, and as I told my brother, maybe no one realizes, but maybe our coming here has done a great thing for the country.
I learned a great deal about my family heritage. I learned a great deal about my grandmother. I learned that old people have got so much to offer. I'm gonna remember her drive and her guts. And I hope that I have learned something from her. I hope I can follow in her footsteps.
Sam Genauer was an infant at Ellis Island in 1908. He and his family came to America to observe their Orthodox Jewish faith without fear of persecution. He was taken to America from his native village of Chernovsky in the Ukraine. The social climate there was inhospitable to the region's many Jews, and the Genauers' highest priority was to enjoy, as a family, the celebration of their ancient Orthodox rituals.
Any leaven which we have omitted or overlooked, which is in our possession or been removed, is considered null and void and totally eliminated.
The holidays is a celebration, of course, of the Exodus from Egypt, and it's a reminder of our past history, our search for freedom. I believe that our strict adherence to our special tradition was one of the prime factors that we are still in existence today.
This tradition, the Seder, like many Jewish rituals, they're very family-oriented. They really, it really brings you together. You do it together. Everyone is involved in preparation, and the Seder, everyone has to sit around the table, and you go through the entire Haggadah together. The significance is to find out, to understand coming out of Egypt, and It's for the children to completely understand and to really feel what it was like.
The central message of Judaism is that every human being is entitled to be free, and that what happened to those slaves will someday happen to the whole world. For the Jews, America has been an experience of freedom. And I remember my father many times at the Seder would tell his children that they didn't appreciate America enough because we were born here.
My grandparents immigrated to the United States because from their respective communities in Europe, they looked to America as in Yiddish, the golden Medina, the golden land, the land of opportunity, of freedoms. And there was not a great deal of religious freedom in Europe.
So I've often thought about what it would have been like had my grandparents not immigrated to the United States about 80 years ago. Chances are really good that I would not be alive today due to the Holocaust and the World War II. My grandparents, all their brothers and sisters who had remained in Europe, were killed in the Holocaust.
My grandparents had no choice, or they had the great struggle of living with persecution and poverty. I think it's a blessing to live in a society where my challenge is to live with affluence and not lose my values, or to live with freedom and not lose my commitments.
I'm American in that I feel tremendous patriotism about this country, that I do all the things that American citizens should do, exercise their right to vote and become educated and know what's going on and become involved in social action issues and be concerned for the welfare of this country.
People really felt that way. This was the last hope. This is where they were going to come to make their opportunity, to make their lives better. The reason I feel that it's so important to teach them, to teach children Hebrew school, is to have a sense, a positive, of pride for their heritage, and not to feel conflict, not to feel like they can't be American and Jewish. You can be both.
But I think America is so free and so open and accepting of Jews that many Jews took this as an opportunity to give up what they had, and we interpreted that freedom as the freedom to be what we were. And therefore America has given us greater freedom and I think greater opportunity to celebrate. And it's a wonderful source of strength. In an open society, you want some stability and tradition and richness above beyond the daily lives.
Our third immigrant family overcame extraordinary obstacles to make their home in Anacortes, Washington. They came in search of political asylum and a safe harbor.
We come from a long line of sea people. We are sea people. My father has a love for the sea. His love for the sea comes from generations and generations and generations of sea people. It's a way of life. My dad and the sea are one.
George Franulovich, no stranger to long sea voyages, spent his working life as a commercial fisherman. He and his wife Marija left Croatia in 1944 to make their way to the United States. It would be a 6-year odyssey through 4 countries before they found a home. They were detained in Italian refugee camps more than 3 years. They lost an infant son to smallpox, but were able to raise 3 daughters. En route to New York, Marija contracted malaria and typhoid fever. At Ellis Island, she was quarantined for 3 months, leaving her daughters in the care of an aunt and her husband confined to the men's dormitory. Ultimately rejected by the authorities, the Franulovich family spent 2 years in South America, hoping to return to the United States. Finally, in 1949, they were admitted. Today, they remember that event with great clarity.
It was a balmy spring evening, and it was just at dusk, and we were in our staterooms, and
everybody got dressed.
Everybody was all dressed up. And Mother said, "Enoye."
There she is.
There she is.
There she is.
There she is.
Again.
And we all
There
rushed.
she is again.
Yeah, Enoye opened, yes. And there she is. And we all rushed to the window, and we saw that great silhouette with that arm upraised. And we all hugged each other and kissed each other and jumped up and down and cried and laughed at the same time. And we looked at her and we said, we'll never leave her again.
It was called Desperate Person, No Country, No Home. And
Now I say we got a country, and God willing, we're going to have a home too.
My
So
mother
that's what it
is probably the person in my life that I admire the most, because of her tremendous strength through all this, the chaos and all the hell we had all been through as a family. She had this strength, and no matter where we were, she would find creativity, whether it was embroidering, for instance, the sheets at Ellis Island. She always had some beautiful thing, a piece of lace, wildflowers. She always was able, in the midst of disaster, create a thing of beauty.
What I remember about my father and mother is a great sense of strength and pride and dignity. This strength has come down to all of us, and I think I'll remember that and give that to people, that driving force to live.
I think one of the greatest fears that any of us had during all this
time
was losing our parents. It was their love that sustained us through all this, all the degradation and the starvation, and the loneliness and the fear.
Gentleman from immigration brought this little identification cards to us. And he said, nah, this is your identification card, and now you're free in United States like everybody else. And that was happiest day in my life. And I said, thank God that I came here where I'm gonna live and I'm gonna die, and where I'm never gonna leave this country again, to go no place.
America means to me plenty. I more appreciate this country, not my country, because this country saved my life, my kids. I make a good living. I educating my kids. That's why I don't know what I say, how much I appreciate this country.
My dad is a neat guy, and he always was. He taught me to dance. The dance ensemble and our performing really didn't start as a performing group. We would work around a table together, and to pass the time, we would sing. We would sing and we'd sing, and of course, not just my mother, my father, and my grandmother's songs. Our basement was a kind of an unfinished room. They had a big fireplace and a wood-burning stove, and we would gather there to work and to sing. It's almost like what you'd call an American family room, very large, open space. Everybody would gather. That was a gathering place.
They would all sit down in the basement and just talk and talk and talk and sing songs. And if it was a song my grandma hadn't sung in a long time, she would start crying.
Everything this family does, it does it to the extreme. Like with the dancing, I'm sure not too many kids can say that. A lot of them can say, yeah, I played Little League football, but how many of them can say, you know, I danced the dances of my forefathers.
That bond is so important to pass on tradition and culture and music and love.
The thing I remember most about America and how it was when we came here was it real? Was it going to last? And I would hear my mother and dad speaking at night. Is this going to last?
After 37 years in America, the sisters revisited Ellis Island to remember. Although they found a busy construction site, their childhood memories were vivid nonetheless.
Ellis Island was a crossroads to a new beginning or a rejection. And we were rejected. And so it is fear and hope. Hoping that we would come to America, but fear that we would be sent away. And we were sent away.
And if there's anything that I want my children to, anything that I want them to appreciate, is the freedom, the real freedom, and their responsibility to that freedom.
This is it. This has been an extraordinary day with so many memories, touching the hallways and the tile and walking down those long corridors and seeing the great tall windows made it friendly again.
I remember looking at the windows and the bars and all that only from one side, but to be able to see them from both sides, that was okay.
I really feel American for the first time in my life. I've felt American, but I know I'm American now. Guaranteed.
Ellis Island closed its doors in 1954. It had outlived its usefulness. Today, immigrants arrive by sea and air, and most are processed in their country of origin. But Ellis Island is a powerful memory for our immigrant ancestors, and their struggle has helped shape our American character and values. As we celebrate the unveiling of the restored Statue of Liberty on the 4th of July, let us salute the children of Ellis Island. I'm Lynn Sherr for ABC Notebook.